Now, I just heard a rumour that XRP could double in price practically overnight, and honestly, what I uncovered next made my heart skip a beat. So there I was, scrolling through crypto news with my morning coffee when I stumbled on an analyst saying that XRP might easily double before any ETF even launches. Double, as in go from around $3 to $6 before the US gives an XRP exchange-traded fund the green light. Now, you know what? My inner skeptic alarm went off instantly. I thought, here we go again. More moon boy hype, right? But something about this got under my skin. Why? Because this analyst, his name is Zach Rector, wasn't just spewing random hopium. He actually backed it up with a story, a history lesson of sorts. And if he's right, October 2025 could turn into either the best party for XRP holders have ever seen or one massive hangover. And I'll explain, but buckle up because this ride has a twist that you won't see coming. See, Zach, he drew a parallel that gave me deja vu. He basically said, think back to Bitcoin and Ethereum and their ETF moments. Immediately, I remembered I was around when I was around Bitcoin's first ETF hype train left the station, right? It was insane, right? Bitcoin shot up nearly 80% just on rumors of an ETF approval. Ethereum had its turn too, jumping from around about 25% leading up to its own ETF buzz, right? Everyone was buying the rumor, celebrating like we'd won the lottery. But here's the kicker. When those ETFs finally went live, boom, the party was over. Bitcoin fell about 30% pretty fast. Ethereum dropped 40%. It was like a sugar rush followed by the kind of mother of all crashes. Classic, buy the rumor and sell the news. Now, Zach is saying that XRP... I apologize for the sneeze. If I forget to sneeze, to edit the sneeze out, then you can let me know in the comments below. Anyway, Zach's saying that XRP could follow that same script. Run up now, crash later. Now, if XRP truly does easily double, pre-ETF, we could actually see it sprint from $3 to $6 in the coming weeks then. Not gonna lie, that thought of a $6 XRP makes me a little giddy, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to see their holdings 2x, right? But then I remembered, right, the other half of the story, the sell the news part. Now, according to this playbook, if XRP moons on ETF anticipation, it might pull a Bitcoin and tumble right after any ETF officially launches. Imagine seeing $6 on Tuesday and back to $4 by Friday. A bit of an ouch, right? So at this point, I'm feeling torn. Do I ride the wave and risk the wipeout, or play it safe and potentially miss out on a rocket ride? If you're holding XRP, you probably feel the same kind of ping pong of emotions here. Greed versus the fear, the FOMO versus the caution. It's like being on a roller coaster, right, where you're both excited and secretly a little bit, queasy all at the same time. And the craziest part here is that the timeline for all of this mayhem, it seems to be marked in our calendars for October 2025. So here is why October is circled in red, on every XRP watcher's schedule then, right? The US SEC just delayed their decisions on several XRP spot ETF applications. Instead of just an answer now, they've punted it back to late October 2025. Now that's the final deadline for approval or denial. So what does that really do? Well, it creates a bit of a countdown, right? We've basically got a clock ticking down. The moments and the months are here, right? And everyone knows it. Now, I can almost feel that the market's heartbeat is quickening here as October approaches. It's like waiting for a finale of a reality show, right? You know something big is coming. You just don't know if it's a grand victory or a total flop, right? So let's think about this. Between now and late October, traders might start piling into XRP just on the speculation, by the rumor part of the saga, if you will. Now, if XRP repeats the price, or repeats itself, the price could, of course, go run up, right? Maybe even doubling like Zach predicts. Then closer we get to that SEC decision day, again, apologies for the second sneeze of the day. But yeah, the closer that we get to the SEC's decision day, the more frenzied it could actually become. Right, I'm picturing green candles, Twitter or X or whatever we're calling, Elon's calls it nowadays, going absolutely nuts. And my phone's price alerts, just ping-ponging non-stop, right? Now, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if XRP grabs headlines on mainstream financial news. Like XRP surges ahead of potential ETF approvals, kind of stuff that makes your kind of co-workers who actually kind of side-eyed crypto suddenly ask, hey, should I be buying some of this XRP stuff? And it's kind of serious when the normies, start actually asking you. But hold on. Let's play this out to the climax of this whole story, right? Because late October arrives, the SEC finally kind of makes their call on XRP ETFs. Scenario A then, right? The approval, at least they approve it, fireworks, confetti, the crowd goes wild, right? Probably, but ironically, that could also be the very moment that everyone who bought in on the rumor kind of sells the news. It's kind of a twisted, I know. You would think approval equals sky's the limit, but remember Bitcoin and ETH, right? Once the good news hit, early buyers cashed out and the price actually dipped. Now, scenario B, the SEC says no, right? In that case, all the speculative air could whoosh out of the balloon and even faster. Price would likely dump as well because suddenly the big catalyst people that were kind of betting on has disappeared, poof. So either way, the moment of truth might actually hurt in the short term. It's kind of like planning a huge party. If it's cancelled, everyone's kind of bummed. If it goes on and everyone parties so hard they pass out, in both cases you end up with a bit of a mess to clean up the next morning. Now, before I go any further here, I have to say something super important, and this one might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Right? Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always, do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, right? And it's important to know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so that was the disclaimer done. Let's get back to the story then, because it's not all doom and gloom. In fact, here's where things get really interesting. Just when you think the story ends with a bit of a crash, here's a potential plot twist. Institutional money, yep, the deep-pocketed big players who many of us retail people have been waiting for, see if an ETF, at least an XRP ETF actually launches, it's not just a one-day event, right? That ETF could actually act as a new doorway, and behind it is billions of dollars waiting to rush in. Now, I'm not exaggerating here. Analysts have thrown out numbers, and some pretty crazy numbers that made my jaw truly do hit the floor, right? Now, if in our kind of free educational Discord server, we've been pretty vocal about this, and it's been buzzing about all the possibilities here. One of our members down there actually shared a take from Stephen McClurg, right, the CEO of Canary Capital. Now, this guy suggests that XRP could attract around $5 billion in the first couple of months of an ETF launch. Now, $5 billion, that's with a B. That's kind of like the GDP of a small nation flowing into XRP land in just a few weeks. And if that didn't get your attention, then apparently even the analysts at JP Morgan predict that $8 billion could pour into XRP ETFs in the first year. So let that sink in, right? $8 billion in the first year just of fresh demand. Even if a chunk of that shows up in the initial kind of post-approval dip, that could be the very short-lived dip, and one that you might want to take advantage of rather quickly, and maybe don't cash out if you're intending to ride the price longer. But again, just my opinion, not a financial advisor. Can't give financial advice. I'd be like someone immediately kind of buying the dip with the massive scale, right? Now, in other words, the sell the news might get followed by the buy the dip for real. Now, the other thing to bear in mind here is that people misunderstand the market cap math. They'll say $5 billion isn't going to add a huge amount to your market cap. Where say we're at 200 billion, we're not, but let's just say we're at 200 billion market cap, and people will think, oh, $5 billion makes it 205 billion. That's not how it works. There's a market cap multiplier effect, because we're talking about $5 billion of liquidity, and market cap is not liquidity. Market cap is just math based on poor metrics. So it takes the last traded price of XRP and multiplies by supply. That's all it does. And liquidity is not the price, right? Value is the price. So people are paying what they think something is valued at, and the liquidity is more important. So $5 billion of liquidity can actually equate to some pretty significant multipliers. You're talking 50 to 100x multipliers. So it could actually add something to the range of, 25 to 50, $1 billion, and maybe even more, maybe even push this out towards getting us towards that $700 billion level, right? So it's not out of the realm of possibility. Just bear in mind that the multiplier depends on the depth of the order books. It's complicated, but you can join us in the free educational Discord if you want to know more about market dynamics at sum zero and all how the actual markets work, because understanding these things as a retail investor is critically important. Anyway, now, I have to tell you this as well, because when I kind of read all of those numbers, I nearly did spit out my coffee, right? $5 billion here and $8 billion there. That gets can get some, right? There's some pretty bold forecasts, right? Even say XRP's price could shoot up to $26 if institutional interest really does kick on in a high gear. So $26, right? For context, at $26, XRP's market cap, of course, would be mind-boggling, right? And a lot of people will tell you it can't happen, but it can, because market cap is just an equation. It doesn't show you anything meaningful. Supply, demand, liquidity, these are the things that are important. So understanding that market cap can absolutely balloon up and that market cap is not a barrier to price is very, very important. So it's important. Now, speaking of the SEC here, there's an irony for you, right? Because the same SEC that dragged Ripple through the brutal lawsuit for many years might actually end up blessing XRP with the ETF approvals. Life is a bit weird sometimes, right? So it's kind of like one minute the SEC's got the villain, and the next they're the kind of hero, right? And at least an unwritten accomplice in the XRP's rise to a degree. Now, if you'd wrote this to like a Hollywood script or so, people would probably call it kind of far-fetched, but wait, because October 2025, has even more in store for it as well. As in, if an ETF decision wasn't just enough drama, Ripple, the company, has another plot line unfolding, right? Their application for a federal banking charter. In plain English, Ripple wants to become a federally recognized bank, or something close to it, in the United States. Now, they filed for this, I should say, for the charter in the summer, and guess when the decision might actually come? Yeah, you guessed that. That's October 2025. Now, I swear you couldn't make this stuff up, right? Both an XRP ETF verdict and a banking license verdict potentially hitting in the very same month, maybe even in the very same week. If Ripple gets that banking charter, it would actually be huge, right? It would mean that the US government is basically saying, all right, Ripple, you're legit enough to play with the big leagues of finance. That could actually open up all kinds of doors, easier partnerships, maybe even with banks, or more trust in using XRP for settlement, maybe even more regulatory clarity for the token itself. For us XRP holders, that's kind of like getting a golden seal of approval on two fronts then, market and regulatory, all at once. Now imagine, just for a second, like the best case scenario, late October rolls around and it's double win. Right? The SEC says yes to the XRP ETFs and the OCC says approved to the banking license charter, right? Boom. Right? In the span of maybe just a couple of weeks, XRP would go from being that kind of embattled kind of token fighting regulators to this shiny new star with institutional products and a federally chartered company behind it. That would feel like winning the crypto Powerball twice over. Now, I get chills just thinking about it, to be honest. Now, of course, on the flip side, we have to consider the worst case scenario. The SEC denies the ETFs and the bank charter doesn't come through. In that scenario, October will feel like a cruel joke. XRP's kind of price, would probably slump, from kind of big time from the kind of disappointment of it all. Now, I'd be kind of getting, I guess, socks for Christmas after you already kind of told everyone you wanted a PS5, right? Not the end of the world, but definitely a bit of a buzzkill. So, where does that all leave me today? Well, I'm excited. I'm an excited XRP holder, but I'm also aware of all the risks. Emotionally, I'm pumped. Logically, I'm cautious. And contradiction? Well, welcome to the world of crypto. Welcome, friends and family. It's always a balancing act between dreaming big and keeping your feet firmly on the ground. Now, I'll let you in on my personal little game plan here. This isn't advice though. This is just what I am doing to keep my sanity. Right now, I'm holding on for dear life, like I have for years. I've seen XRP climb, crash, get sued, get vindicated, all of it. Around $3 per token today, I'm already up way from the darker days of 10 cents when I was purchasing. when it was way, way, way under. I'm feeling pretty good. Now, if we start seeing this kind of rally, that Zach is predicting, like XRP climbing into the $5, $6 range before October, well, I'll be honest with you, I will be very tempted to take a little profit. Not because I've lost faith, but because, hey, nobody ever went broke taking profits, right? I've learned the hard way in the past cycles that having a plan is key. If XRP doubles and you're over the moon, it might just make sense to secure a little bit of that, just in case history repeats and we get another pullback. However, this is important, and I'm not planning to kind of sell all or even most of my stack on a kind of rumor rally. No way, right? At least I want to kind of keep a hefty moon bag, just in case the big money really does flow in after and sends us to new heights. Because if those institutional inflows start rolling in, that could be the start of something much larger for the next few years. I'm thinking of it like this: short-term traders might feast on volatility, but long-term believers could be sitting pretty if XRP really integrates into the financial system through ETFs and maybe, even banks via Ripple. Now, a little kind of practical prep here. If XRP's price starts going haywire, I don't want to be, the guy scrambling for an exchange last minute. So I've already started tinkering with some limit orders on other exchanges. My go-to at the moment is Kraken, but I use BitGet and others as well. All the affiliate links are in the description down below, and if you use those to sign up and trade, then of course you will be able to support the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. By the way, and here comes another shameless plug for you guys. If you are considering using or learning more about everything, then you're going to want to go ahead and check out the free educational Discord server that's also linked in the description down below. We have a fantastic community talking about all of these things in real time, and it's a place that you're not going to want to miss out on. So here we are, right, at the edge of what could feel like a defining moment for XRP. To recap things, roller coaster that this is, an analyst says that we could easily pump to double our current price before ETFs launch. The SEC's delay means that the hype might actually keep building, at least into October. But once the kind of decision drops, we need to be ready for a potential gut punch correction. If the ETF is approved, and essentially if Ripple nabs that banking charter, we could see a wave of institutional money that changes the entire game. That could propel XRP to heights that we haven't seen, maybe even into the double digits over time. On the flip side, if everything doesn't plan out, we might be back to grinding it out and waiting for the next catalyst. And though, through it all, I guess, you and I will be here, navigating the chaos, hopefully a little wiser and maybe even a little extra grey hairs here or there. But it should be worth it, right? In the end, this whole XRP double or nothing saga isn't just about the price target or a news event. It's a reality check on why we actually invest in the first place. For me, it's about conviction, but also learning to manage the excitement. I'm excited because the stars seem to be finally aligning for XRP in a rather big way, right? But for now, guys, you can smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you all in the next one.